You know when you go grocery shopping without a list and you end up coming home with like 10 papayas that you have no idea what to do with? Just me. I don't think I'm alone here. But a recent study found that when you shop with a grocery list, you reduce how much you buy and curb overspending, online and in real life. So if you have shopped with a grocery list and have experienced the benefits of no longer having unplanned purchases or wasting money on things that you don't need, why not apply it to your closet? Creating a wish list for my closet was one of the biggest game changers when I started practicing slow fashion well over 10 years ago. And I still have a list to this day. Not only has it helped me curb overspending, but it also helps me make better fashion and style choices, which I think has led to a more curated and critical eye for developing my own personal style. My name is Alyssa, by the way. I practice and talk about slow fashion on the daily, so if choosing creativity instead of consumption is something you're into, hit subscribe. Or even if this video teaches you something new. Today, I'm going to share my process for curating and maintaining a wish list for my closet and how it can benefit your wallet, your style, and also the planet. I'm doing this with help from today's video sponsor, AG1, who, thanks to their list of comprehensive ingredients, I can make sure I'm covering my nutritional bases and my gut health with just one efficient scoop. More on AG1 later in the video. For now, let's get into this. Look, let's be real. It's a much more rewarding experience for me personally to use a shopping wish list for my clothes versus for my groceries. Like, I don't get excited by the produce section like I do a pair of really great shoes, but having a closet shopping list that I am constantly curating and updating and editing has actually helped me form some really good habits around my closet. Here are some of the benefits and the new habits I've created that have curbed my shopping and helped me shop smart. The first benefit is that having a list gives you a moment of pause before making a purchase. So having a tool to give you that pause allows you to detach from the emotion that is happening when you are perhaps excited about a purchase. Those emotions that are being triggered when we're in a store, when we see something we like without perhaps thinking about it too much. We just want the thing now, or we're excited, or we think it's going to fulfill some sort of need now. This is especially good for unplanned or impulse purchases. And I'm not saying that emotions are bad or unplanned purchases are bad. We are human after all. I think these are inevitable, and they're also part of the fun of getting dressed and fashion. But consulting your list can make sure you're adding these purchases with intention, and it can give you the slightest amount of cooling off period that you need to make that smart decision. This pause gives you time to really consider whether you actually like the garment, or maybe you just like the person wearing it, or maybe you are just attracted by the fantasy self or the fantasy life that it is promising you. By not making that wasteful purchase, you will have saved a garment from being either wasted, donated, going to landfill, any of the above. It stays in store, and hopefully someone who it's really meant for can wear it and love it. The second benefit is that a list gives you a tool to practice patience and waiting and saving. I feel like this is a bit of a lost art, but I learned something recently that I want to share with you, and it's because our brains have this nifty little trick called temporal discounting. This is the cognitive phenomenon of preferring more immediate rewards over future benefits. We are wired this way, so it can be a tough nut to crack. And now with the convenience of same day or next day delivery, having a list that holds us accountable, even if it's just a quick visual thing that we can check, that kind of forces us to get into the habit of being patient and waiting, that can be really powerful. It can also be powerful because it gives you this financial breathing room to actually save up for the item that you might want to buy. It gives you time to consider whether this is a realistic or a solid purchase. It allows you to just kind of visualize it in your closet without actually having to have it in your closet. Usually after a few months or a few weeks, or maybe it's a few days for you, when that cooling off period happens and we start to actually think of how much money we're going to have to invest, how much time we're going to have to invest restyling it or integrating it into our closet, we end up not not wanting that purchase at all, and we can remove it from our list right away. When you remove these items all together, not only does it save you money, but it saves you closet space and it prevents confusion around your personal style. And speaking of saving you closet space, a quick thank you to today's video sponsor, AG1, for saving me pantry space and saving me the confusion around taking multiple supplements. Even though I eat a pretty healthy and balanced diet, I've always taken greens as a supplement ever since becoming a young adult, and these are by far my favorite. They have high quality standards, support whole body health, deliver nutrients and minerals, pre and probiotics, phytonutrients, all from whole food sources. I know there are nutrients that are hard to get from diet alone, so I'm glad I'm getting nutrient diversity with just one scoop of AG1. But let's be honest, I really like the way AG1 tastes, which is really important to me. And even when I travel, thanks to their little easy travel pouches, I don't have to stop this routine or habit even when I'm away. So they make it an easy habit to maintain. If you're interested in trying AG1, visit drinkag1.com/Alyssa Beltempo or scan this QR code on the screen for more info. I'll also leave all the details in the description box below. Thanks, AG1. Finally, a wish list helps you get out of the habit of making redundant purchases that you don't wear, like all of those avocados that I talked about at the beginning. If you've curated your list to only include the true gaps or true wish list items in your closet, then maybe you won't keep coming home with another version of a white button-up shirt. Not gonna lie, full disclosure, I do this often. They're just my favorite pieces. We're all human, okay? And if you are gonna buy redundants, then be really specific on your list and make sure that they differ. But I'm gonna get into this in the next section where we talk about curating and creating your list. Let's get into creating and curating your wish list. To start off, you've gotta do some work first. That's right, my friends. You've got to get into your closet and shop it, get to know it a little bit. There are two ways to do this, and they don't have to be painful. In order to know what you need and really want and like, you have to know what you have. I'm not suggesting you do a full-blown closet audit or closet edit here. I think the simplest and easiest way to do this is to just start getting dressed and paying attention. That's the easiest way to find gaps. You could do this by doing like a blitz shop your closet session where you put some time aside and you create a whole bunch of outfits for the upcoming week or few weeks or the next month, and do that all in one shot. Putting together these outfits and forcing that time for yourself to play with your closet will have you quickly identifying what gaps there are, because you could be putting together outfits and coming up with the same block over and over again. Maybe you need a specific silhouette to balance out some others. Maybe you've determined that you actually don't like a certain type of material and yet you wear them to work all the time, so you need to find something that works better for you. All of that can happen the more you get to know your closet. If you find it hard to get the motivation to do that, you can also just hire me to do it with you. I had to do that shameless plug. If you do decide to do your whole blitz shop your closet section, don't forget to take your agenda, your lifestyle, and your climate into account. You don't have to overcomplicate this either. Here's what I would do. Choose the pieces that you love and that you feel really good in, the ones that you are actually using. Not that piece that you bought that still has the tags on that you fell in love with and looks great, but you just can't find the occasion to wear. We're talking about your go-tos here. Then figure out amongst those items, put them in a separate section in your closet, and figure out the recurring themes. What is it that you like? What are the common silhouettes, the textures, the colors, the fabrics, the vibes? How are you playing with your proportions in a way that you like? Anything that is recurring, that feels good, jot that down or make a mental note that that's what you're liking. Doing this in your own time and within your own closet will allow you to figure out your likes and dislikes without the influence of social media or influencers or anything like that. While you're doing this, do take note of the things that you think you are missing or even your wish list items. Jot all of that down. If you want to be a little bit of a keener here, you can also jot down your likes and your dislikes on your list to help keep you on track if you come across an item that you weren't expecting. At least you've got like your little checklist of aesthetics that you love there. Include fun items on your wish list. It is allowed. This needs to be fun. If you're not in a hurry to build your list, you can do this same thing, creating outfits, etc., over time. You don't have to do it in one blitz session if you don't want. Give yourself 2 to 3 weeks or a month or a few months. It's entirely on your own timeline, but go through that process. Wear the clothes, wear your go-tos, your favorite items, don't force anything, and make a mental note of what you're repeating and why. Also make a note of what you're not repeating, and make a note when you find yourself blocked, when you're pulling a piece from your closet but you're not styling it. Why is that? Is it because of the garment itself, or do you actually have a hole in your closet that would allow you to maximize more of what you already have? Jot all of those things down. Now you've got your list. It's a starting point. It's a draft. You're going to curate and edit and add over time. This isn't slow fashion to be done quickly. In the end, they'll become habits, and you will get to a point where your closet, for the most part, is full of pieces you actually love and wear. I like to keep my lists as simple and accessible as possible, so I just use the Notes app on my iPhone, but Android has a similar Notes app that you can use, or Notes function as well. You could also use something like a Notion template or an app like My Index, which can also help you track the visual outfits that you put together. So if you are someone who's more visual, then that could be helpful to you as well. Another tip is to be really specific as you possibly can with your items. I usually know down to the silhouette, the color, and sometimes even the brand that I'm looking for of a certain item. Being really specific means you're not going to settle for a piece that has some compromises and that you don't really love. When we settle for a piece that is good enough, it ends up being unworn and not really utilized in the end. So having that really specific vision on your list, even if it's just a description, allows you to be strong when you're thinking of compromising. The amount of time that I leave something on my list, it's totally dependent on the item, how urgent it is, how much it costs. Since I'm looking for these items secondhand, I know they're going to be on my list for a while. This is just the nature of how I shop. So I've already kind of set my own expectations to not have to make this purchase right away. Creating pragmatic boundaries can be pretty helpful and practice that whole patience and saving and waiting. That way, when you practice pragmatic boundaries, your brain doesn't really have an opportunity to justify it with emotion or anything like that. A few of my pragmatic limits that I don't compromise on are usually price or budget, and shopping secondhand first. This doesn't mean that I don't end up buying something firsthand if the price is right or if the situation works out. There are also situations where I've saved and waited, or where the price was right and that it was secondhand and all the stars aligned, and yet when I added it to my closet, it still wasn't giving me what I wanted. But I do find that the more I keep a list and the more discerning I am and the longer I wait, the fewer amount of times that this has happened. Now that you've got your preliminary draft list, it's not an excuse or a reason to go out and try and check all the things off right away. If this is how you approach lists, then maybe they're not for you. Maybe they're more seen as a trigger or motivation to cross things off. A list, the way I see it, is organic. It's like a living thing. If we're going to be really dramatic about it, it is constantly changing. You are constantly editing and adding to it. Much like your own closet, it is a constant work in progress. I don't believe in having a perfect closet, like the be all and end all. That just doesn't happen. We're human. Life is messy. Our bodies change. Our lifestyle change. I think we have to accept the fact that we will never have a perfectly curated closet, and our list that is constantly changing will at least help us to manage it in the most intentional and least wasteful way possible. So once you've got your list, recognize this, and if you can, just let it sit. Without shopping, without looking to add anything to your closet. Again, if you don't have any urgent needs or anything urgent coming up that you have a gap to fill for, just take a minute and figure out which items can be purchased secondhand if that's important to you, or which items can be purchased local. This is where you can start to mix in your values, and that will also affect the timeline of when you make those purchases. Even if there's a risk of me taking it off and not wanting that item anymore, I will have some clothing savings set aside. And maybe if I do want to make a splurge, or if I do find a piece that I really love that was unplanned, I know I have the funds to actually make that purchase. I also personally make a note around when I'm traveling next. I like to shop when I travel. That also helps me manage my list. It also gives me something to look forward to. And I know I'm going overseas. I know I'm going to give myself some breathing space to really look at my list and give myself permission to be more open to shopping. Finally, this is being very specific to me, and I'm going to be completely transparent, but I also make a mental note of when I have clothing sponsorships coming in, because I know I'm going to be receiving clothing. So that also allows me to hold off on checking things off my list right away or wanting to shop often, because I know I'm planning in my head clothes from that sponsorship, and I don't want those clothes to be superfluous. I want them to also align with what I actually need and want. Maintenance of your list, it's a constant thing. Here are a few ways that I would recommend maintaining your list. Depending on your shopping habits, it's going to be a choose your own adventure. If you don't get triggered by being online, and if you do get triggered by being online, I'm going to start with the adventure of if you don't get triggered into shopping by just being online. So I'm speaking from my own experience and how I manage it. When I'm online, even if I'm just posting or checking out what my friends are doing, I mean, my job is online. So, I mean, I'm not on there often, to be honest. But even when I am constantly seeking inspiration. Even when I'm traveling, wherever I am. This means that sometimes I'm also pretty regularly adding to my list. Just because I'm adding to my list doesn't necessarily mean that I'm actually gonna go and shop it. Sometimes just the action of adding something to my list gives me that little hit of like, oh great, I might own this someday. And like, that's enough. The list is like the waiting room. And it goes a little bit beyond just saving down something that you like. If you're adding it to your list, do a little bit of research. See the provenance of the item. Align it with your value. This will also put you in a better position to make a more mindful purchase. The second piece to this is whenever you are adding something to your list, take that opportunity to run through my list and edit things out. Usually when I'm in there adding something that I'm excited about, I'll see something else that maybe I'm no longer excited by anymore, and that in itself is an indication to cross it off. Now for the other piece. If you do get triggered by being online, there is so much inspiration out there in real life as well. As with all things on this channel, check your closet first. Go back to the first part of this video where I talked about going through your closet and making outfits, and use that as your jumping off point for continuing to edit the gaps. Another tip that you can do if you are triggered by being online is to set a shopping time for yourself, maybe like 1 hour a week, where you allow yourself time to just play and see things in person or online. That way you can do a little bit of that research. Make it more of an activity about coming to understand the garment that you want and not just necessarily the consumption of it. So that is my in-depth process to managing a list and how it can benefit your closet. I really hope it benefits you, and please remember, like all things slow fashion, this is slow. This takes time, and that's actually the beauty of it. I hope that it's something that you end up enjoying over time too. So that is what I have for you today. A big thank you for watching, for being here, and a huge thank you to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget, I've got that QR code for you and the link in the description below. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful week or night or evening ahead, wherever you're at, and I will see you in the next slow fashion video. Ciao!